the year 2004. Here we are. We're back. Quarter century soldier. I'm Felix Black. What's happening this year? So coming off of 2003, I was in Korea. I've been forced to reclass to become a medical laboratory specialist, a laboratory scientist. And this is me changing my job from human resources over to medical. So they're telling me in December, I have to report to Ft.Sam, Houston, Texas for medical training. So I leave Korea on my birthday, December 9, 2003. I go on leave, leave is like vacation for those who don't know. I go on leave for Christmas, go home to see family, and then I report down to Ft.Sam, Houston, Texas. San Antonio. San Antonio is the home of medical training. I think right now for damn near all branches. I know definitely for the Army, it's the home of the medical corps. So every medical job in the Army does training down at Ft.Sam, Houston. We do our secondary training. So if you remember the 2000 video, you have basic training, then you have AIT, which is advanced individual training where you learn your specific job. So when I say that, all AIT, on job training, is done here at Ft.Sam, Houston. Again, it's medical. So the ratio of men to women is pretty high. But I also chose the job because supposedly you made a lot of money when you got out. That's not necessarily true, but okay. I'm reporting down to Ft.Sam, Houston for AIT. AIT is going to be 6 months. We're going to be going through class training to become medical laboratory specialists. And then we do 6 months of clinicals in an actual hospital. So depending on what hospital you go to in the Army, you might be, talking to some students, but you won't really know. You won't know that they're students because we don't put it out there that they're actual students. So we do 6 months in the classroom. And what happens is this is supposed to be one of the hardest jobs in the Army. We have a really high attrition rate. A lot of people don't make it through the training because we go through 3 sections, 6 months, and it's 2 months in each section. You do chemistry. When we go through chemistry, we're talking about chemistry when it comes to blood, like glucose levels. We're talking about urea, nitrogen. When you go and you get a chemical panel done for the hospital and they tell you like not to eat, don't fast. We're doing like cholesterol testing. We're doing blood tests. Basically, in the lab, we're dealing with any fluid that comes out of your body. Let that sink in. Any fluid that comes out of your body, we deal with in the lab. Okay. So when you go through chemistry, that's what we're learning. We're learning those chemical panels. We're learning about blood sugar. We're learning about lipid, like your fats, your cholesterol. What else do we have? We're learning about like your kidney functions. We're learning about like CK from when you do a lot of workout and your muscles give off CK, creatine kinase, because your muscles are being broken down. We learn about all that type of stuff so we know what to look for when we run those tests. Then we go through hematology. Hematology is where we look at your CBCs, right? When people say, oh, I'm anemic, I don't have a lot of blood cells. That's what we're looking for. We're looking at your RBCs, your red blood cells underneath microscopes to say you have, leukemia or blastoma, you have an allergic reaction to stuff like that. We can see all of that in blood tests. Chemistry, we also do urinalysis. So we do your urine test where you have to pee in a cup. We do that. And yeah, that's part of chemistry. Hematology. And then we also do blood banking when people need blood transfusions. That's part of the hematology / blood bank section. So we learn how to give blood transfusions, A negative, B negative, A positive, O positive. We learn which ones are compatible and which ones aren't compatible. And that's the essence of blood banking. It's almost like, what's the word it's called? Like immunology, right? Because there's a lot of cells that work in your blood that people really don't realize. And the last section is microbiology. When we're talking about Urinary tract infections, when we're talking about you having some sort of like bacterial infection, and it's usually in your stool, like, right? So people do have to come in and submit samples where, they have to shit in a cup and we have to analyze that. That's microbiology, because there's bacteria that's in there that's good and there's bacteria in there that's bad. So that's the very last section, micro. And so we usually get a lot of people that fail out in chemistry. If you've made it past the first 2 months, we might have 1 or 2 people that fail later on in the course. But for the most part, we lose most people in chemistry, because when you get there, it's very fast paced. At the end of the entire year, we do 6 months in class, 6 months in the actual hospital. At the end of the year, you get an associate's degree from George Washington. So it's actually a lot of information in a little bit of time. So a lot of people get there and are just like, you know what? I don't want to do this, or they can't keep up, and so they fail out. It's a lot of long days. When I was down here in 2004, it's long days. So you get a lot of information. We get tested, every couple days, like 2 to 3 days. So you get information, you have to go over, you have to learn it, and you get more information for the test. And of course, the test is cumulative of those 2 to 3 days. So we always had study halls. We always had, people highlighting when we were going through the course. It's very intensive. It really is. And you still have to wake up to do physical training. You still have to go through and do all of your soldier tasks too. But because we're in training, it's not as bad as being in a regular unit. And being prior service, when you come back for training, but you've already passed a job before, you're no longer with the basic recruits. So now, instead of coming from basic to AIT, which you have people that do that, I'm in a different company where all of us have been in the military. That, we've been out to our units and we had to change jobs to now become medical. So we're handled a little bit differently. We're not 100% trainees like the ones coming from basic training are, but because we are trainees, we still have things we have to do. We're able to, if you have a family, you're able to live off base. You're able to go off base every night after class, where the trainees, the ones coming from basic, aren't able to do that. We are separated because you are not supposed to be being in relationships, and you're not supposed to, we call it fraternize. You're not supposed to be getting buddy and chummy with the recruits yet, because we call them, basic trainee recruits, because they still haven't qualified to become soldiers yet. You're not fully qualified until you pass basic and AIT. So being prior service, if I fail, I just go back to being HR. But if HR won't accept me back, I kind of have to get out of the Army at this point. But it was intense, but it wasn't difficult if you focused. It wasn't too bad. So while I was down here, I still had the neon, right? Remember the green neon that I had? I finished paying my dad for that. Yay. Finished paying that off, right? We're good to go. So I actually traded that in like the next month. My dad lost his shit because I traded it in so quickly. And now I appreciate the fact of paying off a vehicle and keeping it instead of paying it off and then going to get another car payment. I didn't understand that at the time, because I was like, why are you bugging? Like, I had paid it off. Like, you go get another one. So yeah, he was bugging out because I traded it in. He was like, well, if you were gonna get rid of it, you could have just left it with me. He's like, nah, why would I do that? I'm like, nah, I'm good now, right? So I end up purchasing my first car on my own in 2004. It was a white 2000 Buick Century. I remember it because my mom still has it. I actually passed it down to my brother some years later, but that was the very first car I purchased with my own money and paid off completely without any parent help. So yeah, I was feeling really good about that. Okay, so I'm down here in training. This is probably um one of my worst years as far as being in trouble, right? It's probably the worst year because this is only year where I was actually like in trouble and I had actually done something to get in trouble, right? So what it boils down to is once we started class, all of us prior service are together, right? So we're really cool because we all come from different units. We know what it's like. We're fully qualified. So I was really good friends with the people that were there, right? So when we started a course in chemistry, there were different instructors that were there. You didn't have one instructor for every subject. You had under chemistry, you had different, kidney function. You had the cardiovascular system. You had like circulatory system. So when we got to like one of the kidney function or something, I forgot which course it was specifically, we had a different instructor, right? So the instructors sit up front of the class. They walk back and forth, and we're lined on the outside because we have these big laboratory tables. I don't know what kind of tables y'all had in school, but in your biology labs and your chemistry labs, we have these big black countertop tables where you kind of work on. It's not regular desks. So it was like that in the school. We had these big black countertops that we set up. You sat high on them, right? So I'm sitting off. If the instructor I'm sitting here, the instructor is to my right? So I have to kind of sit like this to see them when they're giving instruction. Unless I just want to sit like this, and I can always like turn and look. So we got a new instructor. Had never seen her before, right? Never seen her before. This is my first time seeing her. So I'm turned and I'm looking at her as she's instructing. I haven't said nothing. I've never spoken to her. She's never spoken to me. The class is what? Like 32 people, I want to say. It's a number of people in there. So as she's giving her course, she's looking directly at me. Like, when I say directly at me, her course is probably an hour, right? So we do classes for an hour. We take 50 minutes. We take a 10-minute break, and then we go another 50 minutes. Her course was for 50 minutes, right? We was in there for 50 minutes. For 45 of those minutes, she's looking right at me. I'm saying, just like I'm looking into this camera right now, she is supposed to be, giving the class to everybody. You know how you give courses and you boom, boom, boom. Like you talking to everybody. You can walk in the aisles. People are all around you. So you just kind of turn around, talking to everyone, looking around. She's looking at me. So even when she's up front, like I said, I'm catacornered to her. She's angled, talking like to me. Boom. Like, this is what we need to be doing. This is like the functions of it. When you have this number, people can be going through and having these type of complications within their body. I like I like attention. I like attention, right? I don't shy away from that because it's not often that I get that. But when I tell you she was looking at me so hard, so intensely, that even I had to turn away. Because usually, if I'm interested in a woman and we make eye contact, that's a good thing, right? Oh, you looking at me, you checking me out. boom, like, what's up? Like, what's going on? I see you. You checking me out. She backed me down with how she was looking at me. And so when we went on break, again, I'm with other prior service. And so one of my really good friends who was in the class was like, you know her? Like, we're outside of the class, it's just me and her. She was like, you know her? I was like, no, what are you talking about? She was like, she's talking directly to you. Like, fuck everybody else that's in there. She's like laser focused on you. I'm like, what you mean by that? She was like, nah, don't play dumb. Don't even do that. Don't, we're not doing that right now. She was like, yo, like, she is looking right at you and she's not even looking around at all. So I was like, I mean, I guess, right? Just trying to downplay it. But she was right? I just didn't want to say like, yeah, like, what's going on? Like, what's up with her? So this is like one of the breaks. So we go back into the class. We're still going through the kidney function and stuff like that and the readouts for kidney function. And she's still doing it, right? She's still doing it. So for 45 of those 50 minutes, she is locked in on me. So, things happen. She got in contact with me. And so, yeah, that happened. That was kind of my first time engaging in anything like that, right? So I was 2004, I was 23, and she was like in her mid 40s. So I'm smitten, right? Because I'm a young dude. I'm like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, this older lady is all over me. That's so cool. That's so awesome. So I'm feeling myself, right? Y'all already know I'm not a fan of physical fitness. I don't like doing it. I will do it because I have to. But if you ask me if I like to work out, no. If I could stay skinny or be skinny and muscular without working out, of course I would choose to do that 100% of the time. So I don't like doing PT, and I didn't like doing it in 2004. So physical training, PT. So I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. So during the course, like I said, it's long days. So you go to class, you get all this information, then you end up studying the information at night, making flashcards, whatever it is that you do to help you study. So I don't want to get up for PT in the morning. So what you can do in the Army, you can go to the doctor and say, oh, my feet hurt or my ankles, something wrong with my legs. I feel some pain. So they'll say, okay. They'll give you what we call a profile, where you don't have to do PT for a certain amount of time. So it's, you go to sick call. Hey, say I'm having some problems with my legs or something like that. Some pain or something like that. And while they're treating you, if you have to go get a referral for x-ray, if you break something, they will say, okay, here's a profile for you not to work out for like a week. So I got one of those. I think mine was for 2 weeks or for a week. I want to say it was one week, so you go give that to the person that's in charge. There was a person in charge of our class. I remember his face. Idiot. He's not on my list. So I go give him, because I was wrong. I go give him the profile for not doing PT for a week, but I keep the original. So what happens is, I think I didn't go to PT one day. And so you're unaccounted for when you don't do that, because that's the formation that you go to first thing in the morning, to where they say they do like a roll call, accountability, to make sure everyone's there, everyone's safe, nothing happened to anyone overnight. So when someone doesn't show up, you have to go find them. And I didn't show up. Right? I was living off base at the time because I was a NCO, a Sergeant E5. And so now I think I came late, or I had missed it. And so I had what I did, it was past the 1 week. So what I did was I wrote like a 2 on it, because I had the original. So now it says 12 weeks instead of 1 week. You can't do that because you can only put, I think you can only put up to 2 weeks on a certain form. And then if it goes over 2 weeks, it goes on another form. But I didn't know that, right? So I wrote in the 2. And so when I gave it to him, of course, he's medical because, you know, they had the people working there that were already medical. And so when he saw that, he knew that I had written it in. Now, what he could have done is he could have just let it die and just be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, this is false. You falsified this. We're going to go out and do some push-ups, sit-ups, or, you know what I mean? We'll smoke you or something like that and let it be done. You don't have to put everything on paper, right? I'm saying this is the person that did something wrong. So he put it on paper and I got what they call a summarized Article 15. So basically a summarized it's a formal slap on the wrist, right? You know, usually a slap on the wrist is something really light. The summarized Article 15 is light, but it's an official thing, right? So it goes on the form. And so what it is, I got 3 days of extra duty. Extra duty means after the duty day, you have to report to the company in order for them to like give you little tasks to do copies, clean up or something like that, right? It's just menial tasks just to waste your time. So I got a summarized Article 15 for doing that. The good thing is that it doesn't go like in your official fish, right? They didn't file it. Okay. So I come off of that. There was this was not like the next day. A couple months later. There was a formation on a Saturday. I was preoccupied. I was preoccupied, right? And I didn't go. Right? I didn't go. There was nothing wrong with me. I was doing something else, right? And I just did not go. So blatantly, I just blew it off. And of course, Captain America could have just let it go. Could have just bypassed it. But because he put the first thing on paper, of course, he's going to put this one on paper. And so this time I got a company grade Article 15. So for this one, I got 14 days extra duty, 14 days restriction. So I couldn't leave the base. I had to stay at the company. I couldn't leave the base. And then they took $200 out of my check for 1 month. Right. And then it was like a suspended sentence. So they gave me the punishment and then they suspended more. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he could have given me more. I think it was like, and forfeiture of X amount of dollars is suspended, unless he gets in trouble. Right. So it's basically, they give you a suspended sentence, almost like probation, right? Almost like probation. If you keep your mouth easy, hey, yo, if you keep your nose clean, you won't endure any more punishment. So I didn't, because at the end of this time, I was actually leaving to go. So yeah, I didn't go on a Saturday. I was just like, I'm supposed to go to formation today, man. Fuck that. I'm not going. And I didn't go. I didn't think I was going to get Article 15 for it, but I did. I got Article 15, UCMJ, 14 and 14, $200. So I was kind of spiraling out of control. Like I wasn't like in a depressed state or in a bad state. I just wasn't making good decisions at this time. I had a lot of extra stuff going on. But I still, that was blatant. Like I just didn't go. There was no excuse for me to do that. I can laugh about it now because, everything ended up turning out okay in the end. But yeah, that was just a dumb decision to make right there. So they gave me the 14-14-200. So what that did is I'm number 3 in the class. The class is around 40 people or so. I'm number 3 as far as GPA. So what does that mean? I'm supposed to be like honor graduate. But because I got in trouble, you can't have received any negative counseling or any UCMJ action. And Article 15 is UCMJ action. So what that does is that disqualifies me from getting the actual award, even though I'm still number 3. I'm fucking killing it, right? But what I was able to do is, the top 5 people somewhere in there, they get choice of where they want to go for the second phase. Phase 2 are your clinicals, and they're in different hospitals around the country. So I still got to choose where I wanted to go. I just didn't get that honor graduate thing. And so I chose to go back home to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I just needed, we graduated in September, and then I chose Fort Jackson, where I just did basic AIT, because my father lived there. My father, when I joined in 2000, he actually retired in 2000 and lived in Columbia. And so they had a hospital there. It was small. They only took 2 people, so I was one of them, and then one of my classmates also went with me too. Renee Koch, I remember her because I know her. I still know her and her husband. I was an instructor with her husband, Rivera. Shout out to y'all, man. So we both went to Fort Jackson. I just needed to go home just to reset, right? Going through this story, I left home in 2000, and it's been a whirlwind of just things happening. And mind you, throughout all of this time, I'm making these decisions solo. Like, I'm doing this on my own. I'm not asking. I have a dad that just retired from the Army, but he said he retired because it changed. It wasn't what it was when he joined, and I get that he joined in the 80s. So now, some of the advice is that some of the way that they used to do things, they don't do it anymore. And plus, like I told you in the prelude, just leaving, I was kind of just like, I need to go make my own path. So a little bit of it was stubbornness and not wanting to reach out. But at the end of the day, I was still making all of those decisions on my own, like the decision to go to Korea, the decision to reclass, and the decision to to purchase the car and all that type of stuff. Like, I'm doing all of that willy-nilly and learning as I go. So now, because I did that then, I kind of know, don't pay off a car today and sell it the next day or, trade it in for something else the next day. Experience is the best teacher. So I just needed to go home and reset a little bit. And, now that I'm off on my own, my relationship with my father is a lot better because he sees that I'm sustainable. Like, I'm able to do it, right? Because I haven't called and asked for help monetarily, anything else to come save me. None of that since I left home 5 years ago. And so we're in a good space right now. We're good. And he's actually like, come home. If you can come here, come here. That way you don't have to worry about any of the extra stuff. And so that's kind of how I operate now. I was just talking about this to someone. I will support family and friends no matter what, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not a safety net. I'm a break glass in case of emergency person. And people who know me know that. I'm not going to let you fail. I'm not going to let you just hang out here like you have nobody to turn to. But also, as soon as things get rough, usually monetarily speaking, as soon as things get rough, like, you have to figure that out. You just can't automatically break the glass for an emergency. Like, no. That's a safety net is something that's there to catch you, like, no matter what. well, that's like your first line, a safety net. I think I'm below that. I'm literally like the break the glass. If the first line doesn't save you, I at the end of the day, I will, take care of you. I will make sure you're good to go. And so that's what he was operating as. Now you're good. You're not looking for assistance. You probably need it. So let me save you from yourself because you are free and making all of these decisions. Let me offer you help the way that I can. And so that was really good for me to go home in September. And I spent 6 months there. So that was the end of 2004. Just moving back, just getting back to being the angel that I am and just not doing blatant things to get in trouble. And so that's what, because that's what I was doing in 2004. I was in trouble. My head was in the clouds. It was going to school. It was working hard and playing hard too. But I still had an obligation. I don't know. I can't for the life of me tell you why I just said whatever. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just not gonna do that. I don't know why I would do that. But I did it and I own it. So that's the only time that'll be the only time that I get in Article 15. But I won't avoid controversy just because of who I am. And some of it was brought on by myself and some of it wasn't. This one was brought on by me. So this is the start of me getting in trouble, like formally, but I never got any other Article 15s. I only got this one. But yeah, I was just so blatantly just like, I'm not doing that, or I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. And I paid the consequences for that. And so I didn't get the honor graduate that I was supposed to get. Which, it doesn't hurt me in the long run, but at the end of the day, you want all the accolades that are due to you. It wasn't anything that was given to me. I worked for that, right? I did the studying. So it's just giving me what I'm owed. Like I'm owed that. And so I just didn't capitalize on that. It'd be different if it was something like someone bestowed upon me. Yeah, did I really earn that, or did someone just choose to give that to me? It's different when you earn it, but then you're unable to get that because of something else you did. So that's the only reason why it affects me like that, because it's not something that I can really hang my hat on. Like I can sit here and say I was supposed to be, but I wasn't. See what I'm saying? So that's 2004. During the middle of 2004, it was really rough, like getting in trouble like that, and still getting up every day and going to class, compartmentalizing like nothing happened. So the middle of the year was a little rough, but the end of the year was great. To go back home and to have that support system to go back home to is always going to be something that's really beneficial to anyone. It was beneficial to me. And yeah, that's the way it ended. So it came in like a lion, but it ended like a lamb. So that's episode 5, 2004. My time at Ft.Sam, Houston, Texas. So next year, 2005, that's when I head up to DC. And we'll get into that in the next episode. Thank y'all for watching.